And what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. Season's over. Awards have been announced. Standings finalized, which means it's time to look back on our 2025 preseason predictions and laugh a little bit, probably cry a lot because we were really, really bad once again. Um, yeah, listen, the predictions are fun, especially in a league with so much parity. But once again, I think all we need to do next year is take our predictions and just flip
I'd
them.
flip them. Yeah.
Just flip them. We'll probably be
Yeah.
closer. Um, yeah, there are a lot of really good ones to talk about. We will explain and apologize and do all the fun stuff. I'm here with Connor. Connor, how you doing?
This episode's gonna make me feel bad about myself.
Yeah, they usually do, to be fair. But that's the way we do things. Yeah, let's go Scar for the week because that'll probably be the coolest part about this episode. Everything else is going to be really sad.
Well, Scarf of the Week is just the start of the apologies that are going to be going on today, and there's one I owe to this team over here, San Diego. If my camera would zoom out, oh my God, I could like sit in my bed just to show off the scarf.
You know, that might get us views. You hanging out in your bed? That is nightmare fuel. Goodness me. Oh, our audio listeners are so lucky they don't have to deal with that. Um, I also have a lot of apologizing to do specifically to this group right here.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I like this scarf. I really do. I think it's a nice one.
Like
So
it so much you left the tag on it.
yeah, you know I don't take the tags off my scarves.
Oh, why would you not do that?
Why would I?
Well, it makes it seem like you want to return them.
Listen, I don't control what happens, but enemy of the pod, you're always at risk. Say one wrong thing and it's over. Where do we start? Where do you want to start? You want to do East, West, Bold, or awards?
Let's start in the East.
Boo, you're so boring. That's always what we do.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
what I'm sticking with.
All right. So let's go through the official standings, right? We'll go 15 to 1. DC finished in last. Atlanta finished one game off of the wooden spoon. Montreal ahead of them. Then Toronto, New England, Red Bull finish out the non-playoff teams. Orlando and Chicago in the 9 and 8 spot. Then you get Columbus, Nashville, New York City in the 7-6-5. Charlotte, Miami, FCC, and Philadelphia Union winning the Supporter Shield in 2025 in the East. I'll just run through mine really quick. You can run through yours really quick, and then we can kind of talk about anybody who is drastically off. So, and we can be guiding on that. But I had TFC in dead last, DC second to last, New England in 13th, Philly in 12th, where my apologies tour starts, New York City in 11, Montreal in 10, Nashville in 9, Orlando at 8, Chicago at 7, Columbus at 6, FCC at 5, Miami at 4, Red Bull at 3, Atlanta at 2, Charlotte at 1. So, quite frankly, now that I look at it, I was real close on a lot of these.
All right, for me, I had New England at 15, Toronto at 14, DC at 13, Philly at 12, NYC at 11, Montreal at 10, Nashville at 9, Chicago at 8, Red Bull at 7, Orlando at 6, Atlanta at 5, FCC at 4, Columbus at 3, Charlotte at 2, and Miami at 1.
Yeah, you weren't terribly far off on a lot of these either. I mean, some of them were not great, but you did get one dead on, so good for
I
you.
did. I got one dead on. And it's your
Good.
favorite team.
It is. It is. All right, I'll start my apology tour. I'll say Toronto was close enough. I had them dead last. I mean, we were talking about them being historically bad, and they were not very good in front of goal. DC was good. New England close enough. They're off by two. Philly is where I start, and I think a lot of people were in this realm.
We should just do Philly together because we both had Philly at 12.
Yeah. Let's just do Philly together. Philly, they were tough, right? They had a new coach. They had sold their best player. The coach that they brought in was not coming off of a hot record, right? We were talking about how form matters with new coaches, and obviously Bradley Carnell released halfway through the St. Louis year in 23, 24, 24, 24, and then comes in and blows us out of the water. Gets a ton of buy-in. The emergence of Makanya, Lukic looked really really good in there next to Danley. They found a really good double pivot in there, and then Ty Baribo fallen out with a ton of other attacking options up there, but Bariba obviously leading the team. Kai Wagner still performing at a high level, and again, even when Andre Blake wasn't in, you're looking at Andrew Rick coming in and being fantastic. So just all around really good group for Toronto for Philly, and yeah, it's a credit to the coach getting team buy-in, finding the right players to play his system, and then them executing it properly. So good on him.
Yeah, I think we learned our lesson. If Bradley Carnell is in the first year with a team, just pick them to win the conference. Like let's just cut the crap. They're gonna win the conference if he's in his first season, but going to be very interesting to see how next season he does in Philly because that's kind of when the fall off happened in St. Louis. So I'm curious if there's maybe some lessons learned here, or if we're headed right to a repeat of his time with Philly. But yeah, sorry, his time with St. Louis. But yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. I don't remember. Did they sell Gazdag by the time we were doing this predictions?
Yeah, they did. I think they did.
Yeah. So I mean, I think understandably there was no Carranza, no Gazdag, and so we were like, all right, well, where are the goals going to come from?
And
Um,
Bariba didn't look that good in
yeah, he had like flashes the year before,
yeah.
but nothing like not to this level. But yeah, he definitely overshot our expectations, and they were just a really well-rounded team, like overall. Like goals just came from everybody on the team. Somebody was always contributing. So, credit to I think the biggest credit is to Bradley Carnell and what he was able to get out of this team.
Hmm. Yeah. I also had New York City missing the playoffs. They made it and were nearly in the top four.
Yeah,
Um,
me
I
too.
don't quite remember why, but I think you know what it was. I do remember why. I didn't rate Pascal Janssen. I remember he came in and I just wasn't sold on him. I thought he was okay at best. I thought he was, and he didn't have a super deep back line to work with. I didn't expect the emergence of Matt Freese to be as good as he was. Justin Hack, a 34 game starter at center back, being, upwards of, if not MLS best 11, we're talking MLS best 36 if we're doing three teams. I think he's in that conversation. Alonso Martinez, not only balling out, but again in the Golden Boot race up till the end of the year, until he and unfortunately getting hurt. Funny enough, I ran into a Costa Rican soccer fan wearing a Red Bull jersey in on my walk the other day, and we were talking about Alonso Martinez, and he said, rightfully so, if he's healthy for that game against Miami, it's a different game, and I completely agree. I think he brings a different level that Miami doesn't necessarily know how to handle from the start, and maybe he puts away one of those two chances that they missed, and it's a different game.
Yeah, I had the same scenario. I also had them missing the playoffs, and I think to me the defense was like the biggest thing. Like I don't remember what my comments were exactly or my thoughts were because I actually don't think I was on the predictions episode this
No, you
last
weren't, by the
year,
way. Yeah, no, you
which
weren't.
and it was a fantastic episode. I listened to it and it was great. I thought you did really well, but I think my thoughts were aligned with how you were thinking about NYC, where I was like looking at the back line and I'm like, how are they pulling this thing together? And they were great this year. I think most of the credit, like you said, goes to Matt Freese. That's not to say that other guys didn't step up, but he was fantastic this year, and the back line ended up being a lot better. I feel like I would have assumed Alonso Martinez was going to have a strong year. He had a strong year the year prior. NYC just seems to know how to find a striker. This is like they went from Tati straight to Alonso Martinez. Well, not straight
Mhm.
to, but they went Tati to Alonso Martinez is a great transition for them. Um, but even like Hannes Wolf had a strong year this year, way better than I would have expected from him. So,
Yeah,
guys stepped up that we just weren't expecting to step up for them, and it wasn't like they had this miraculous huge overhaul of their team. A lot of these guys who had impacts for them were here the year prior. Justin Hack was here, Hannes Wolf was here, and they just seemed to do really well under Janssen.
yeah, and again, we've given Pascal Janssen his flowers repeatedly throughout the playoffs. I mean, just a fantastic tactician and figuring out ways to get it done. But yeah, the individual performances of some of these players that he was able to bring out was fantastic. So, big credit to him. Where'd you have Nashville? You had Nashville at 9. I also had them at 9, and they finished up in sixth. So out of the, in the play-in game versus, freshie in the playoffs. And I think it comes down to, at least for me, Um, didn't expect Sam Surridge to go off the way he did. I thought, I knew Hani was kind of not necessarily on the decline, but people were figuring him out, and Surridge just hadn't been the guy to figure out how to help him. But he found a really good way to do it. Andy Nahar having a career year at right back. What he dish out? The second most assists from defenders this year, or something like that, behind Wagner. A couple of big players stepping up and making a difference in their attack and in their defense and in all aspects of the game. And again, then there was the BJ Callahan thing where it's like, is he the guy? Is he going to really figure this out? And there were moments where they were up punching at top of the East, and they kind of died off a little bit at the end there. But BJ definitely proved that he is up for the task, no doubt.
I don't think our prediction was anywhere like remotely close to like being a situation where it's like, oh my God, it was way off because they at the end of the season, 6 and 9 feels far apart. At the end of the season, they were 1 point off of ninth place. So
Yeah,
we
but
were pretty close.
it's farther off than 6 and 7.
Back-to-back episodes with a 6-7 reference.
That's crazy.
Our numbers are going to tank. We got to cut it out.
Yeah, we really do. We really do. No, and I think this is not nearly as disrespectful as some of our other ones. That's the way I'll put that. I think a lot of people kind of had them in this range, and again, you're right. They weren't super far off from being in there. And that whole run in from 9, even I think it was down to, 10 was out on the last day, but between 9 and 4, I thought was like all between a point or something like that on the last day. So yeah, definitely not super disrespectful at all. Orlando and Chicago, I both had very close. Did you have Orlando higher? No, you were relatively close too. The big ones, I think for all of us are Atlanta. You weren't terribly far off on Red Bull. I was. So I'll talk Red Bull for a second here, where I fully bought in on the idea that with 1 year, a healthy Emil Forsberg and a healthy Lewis Morgan, the team that brought us on this miraculous run to MLS Cup through the playoffs last year, a full year under Schwartz's tactics and the the time that they would have had together, I guess is the way I'll put it, would have been great. And then Lewis Morgan got hurt 40 minutes into the season, and we played Wiki Carmona for 3,200 minutes, and just it wasn't good enough. Um, Center mids were the depth wasn't good enough there. We weren't solid there, but realistically, we just didn't have any options outside of Forsberg and Choupo-Moting, and it's you can only rely on your goalkeeper to save you so many times, and we didn't get a chance there. And two things, right? One, healthy Lewis Morgan, different game, right? And we're not talking about this today, but San Diego, if they can keep him healthy, are going to benefit drastically from him. But the other side of it is we had a whole summer transfer window to deal with it, and we brought in exactly zero wide players to attack with. We just said, "Yep, we're gonna wait for Timo Werner." Timo Werner said, "Haha, you guys suck. No, thank you." And then we were stuck with the same group pressing for the very end of the year, where we needed what on the last day we're out. On the last two games we're out, but that run in when we played Chicago, we played Orlando, we played Columbus, we played all these teams going into the final day, and we had nobody to bring off and run things out with, and it was just super disappointing the way that they did that. So playoff streak over, new coach coming in, Michael Bradley's probably at the wheel. Let's run it back, baby.
One of the
I'll let
baldest heads in the league.
I know. I'll let you run to Atlanta here.
Yeah, I would imagine both of us probably have Atlanta pretty off. It was hard to see this one coming because you bring in a coach who's had success in this league. You spend a ton of money to build up this team in the offseason, and lots of, big designated player names, reunions with Miguel Almiron. It's like momentum felt like it was swinging fully in Atlanta's direction. And at least for myself, I played it a little bit more cautious
Hmm.
because I figured the defense was going to be still a bit of a mess, right? Like Bragazan had a great year last year. That being said, he's 40 and he's your starting goalkeeper. Like it's just not going to end well. And they really didn't make much in terms of adjustments on the back line until midseason this year. But going into the season, it was kind of like running it back with the exact same team, which
Hmm.
already had defensive issues, and then they were just going to potentially get worse, which inevitably it happened. My banking for this team was on the new players that they were bringing in the attack being able to mesh together and just carry the team similar to how the Galaxy won MLS Cup the year prior. Like that team was just not, they were fine defensively, but it's like not what led them to MLS Cup. It was how dominant and explosive their attack was. And I was like, all right, Atlanta's invested in a lot of really good attacking players. I think there's potential for them to do the same thing. And they just couldn't mesh. They couldn't, like, Ronnie Dyler just couldn't get it to work with them. And as soon as the attack went down, it was full exposure on the defense and it just completely fell apart and fell off the rails. And I think they just got to a point where they were like, all right, well, we're just going to let Ronnie ride it out for the rest of the season because, we can make a coaching change now, but it's not going to save our chances at a playoff run. And it never got any better with Ronnie at the helm. But, maybe a new coach is an opportunity for them and, you can start to make the changes that you need to in the rest of the team. I'm not ready to give up on all the designated players that we brought in so far, but I think we need the right coach and we need the right supporting cast for the team. But I think that was like the biggest thing, the biggest letdown of the season that caused them to drop so much for where I expected them to be.
Yeah, I had the same vibe, right? Like these new players coming in, built around a group in Atlanta that wasn't great, but you addressed the problems you needed to address, right? I thought everything that you needed to work on was there, and it was mainly in the attack. You quasi figured it out, and then just didn't perform, right? Miguel Almiron, I don't want to say non-existent, but for what you would have expected from him in his first stint, relatively non-existent. Then you're looking at, Lafayette, who again, not generally bad, but for what you paid for him, that is, he put up TAM numbers for a guy who was for 34 seconds was a record transfer until somebody else broke it like that day. But, those numbers aren't good enough for what you're paying. And you're right. Brad Guzan, he ran out of time, right? He was fighting. He wasn't fighting just the attackers and the other team, but he was fighting Father Time, and he lost, right? And unfortunately, that's just the case. And it is. I don't want to say disappointing, but again, I don't think Ronnie was a guy. I think that his COVID Cup pulled the wool over the eyes of a lot of the decision makers in Atlanta, and he was out of his match. He was out of his depth, and it's interesting. Will Tata run it back and do better? I don't know. I'm not sure. But there's only time can tell on that one. But yeah, the new reinforcements didn't do the job the way that a lot of us expected them to. And we credit you for trying to push the envelope and bring the league into a new level of spending. But in a salary cap league where you get really six impact spots, right? Six high spending impact spots, you can't miss. And they did. And now they are, like I said, I put them in the challenge for the best team in the league, and they were challenging for the worst team in the league. So that's what happens when you miss on your big signings. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
All right, let's head over to the West then, because I know if I asked you, you would have said, let's just go to the West and keep things like normal. So um, that's where we'll go. SKC finishing in 15th, with the Galaxy finishing just above them, St. Louis in 13th, Houston in 12th, Colorado in 11th, San Jose in 10th, RSL at 9, Portland at 8, FC Dallas at 7, Austin at 6, Seattle at 5, Minnesota at 4, LAFC at 3, Vancouver at 2, and the mighty San Diego FC at 1. This is where I've got some explaining to do, I think. So, um, and it always is, by the way, because we're on the East Coast, we don't see a lot of West Coast stuff. So this really is like shot in the dark time. But um, I had Vancouver at 15, and I believe somebody might have mentioned they were on pace for the single worst season in MLS history. So sorry. And then I had Portland in 14, SKC at 13, Houston at 12. That's my one dead on. FC Dallas at 11, Colorado at 10, San Jose at 9, Austin at 8, RSL at 7, San Diego at 6, Minnesota at 5, St. Louis at 4, Galaxy at 3, LAFC at 2, and Seattle at 1.
On my end, I had SKC at 15, RSL at 14, Colorado at 13, San Jose at 12, Austin at 11, San Diego at 10, Dallas at 9, Portland at 8, Vancouver at 7, because I have at least somewhat of a brain. The Galaxy at 6, Minnesota at 5, St. Louis at 4, right after I just said I had a little bit of a brain. Houston at 3,
Yeah, that's what I was
Seattle at
waiting
2,
for.
LAFC at 1.
Yeah. Oh, I got a big brain. Puts Houston at 3. Get
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
out of here.
I did not claim big brain, okay? I said I have a little bit of a brain.
That's crazy talk. I'll start with Vancouver. Guys, when we came into the league, they hadn't bought a single player. Or when we did our preview, we hadn't bought a single player. Or I think they bought Jaden Nelson, who had minimal at best impact in MLS before he left. They had Jesper Sorensen, who I was not impressed by, which obviously, big miss on me there. Their team was up for sale. They didn't know if they were sticking around for longer than the season. And, they were in this bubble of we might not exist by the end of the year. That is not something that you play through and are like, yeah, not only are we going to do well, we're going to go on a generational run for the club and make it to 3 different finals, winning one of them, uh, and fight for the supporter shield by the end of the year. I mean, this was unbelievable from Vancouver for the position they were in, and quite frankly, for the money they spent. Before Thomas Muller, they really didn't bring in anybody who was groundbreaking. Everybody, they just pretty much ran it back with who they had last year. Incredibly impressive from Vancouver, and I did it throughout the year, where every time they made it to a final, I just made a list and I said, "Oh, by the way, remember when I said they were going to be terrible? Here's the next thing that they did to make me look stupid." And the list got really long by the end of the year. It was just what an incredibly impressive year from Vancouver. It'll be interesting to see if they can run it back though, because teams are now kind of going to figure out who it is. Oh, by the way, Ryan Gault was still hurt. Yeah, they were going to start the season without Ryan Gault, and then Brian White got hurt too. So, as bad as the prediction turned out to be, I don't think it was actually that out of pocket.
I mean, I get what you're saying. Like I think there were signs that it could just completely fall apart. But at the end of the day, going from 15 to 2 is just never gonna there's no way you could ever create any justification for their saving that one. I think you got to take the L and move on. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of my list where I'm going to be doing the same thing.
Well,
Um,
here's what I'm saying. I'm not. I think my prediction was not great. Their performance overperformed anything else that somebody predicted they could have done. So realistically, if they finished in seventh, sure, that would have made me feel that would have made me feel like, okay, that makes sense. I don't think anybody woke up and was like Vancouver is going to be top 2 in the West. I don't think
yeah.
that's true.
Oh, I agree,
Yeah.
100%. They completely blew their expectations out of the water.
Hmm. You
Um,
you up next?
yeah, I could start out with RSL, I guess. I had them 14th. They finished ninth. So that's a 5 spot difference. To be honest with you, I still don't feel bad about this prediction. Genuinely, I don't understand how RSL somehow got a playoff or play-in spot here. I was curious because I looked up their expected goal difference on FBref because obviously that's not a complete tell-all on how a team's performance was this year, but they were the second worst in the Western Conference in expected goal difference. So I feel like my prediction was not that far off, and they just found ways to win games, which is so RSL-esque because that team just always just finds some weird way to win games and sneak themselves into a play-in or a playoff. It's honestly it's a bit ridiculous, but um, technically I was still 5 off at the end of the day, but I don't feel bad about that prediction. I feel like I was not incredibly far off on that.
Yeah, I had him closer, but yeah, I don't think it's crazy to think that. I think what it was, I probably had them out of the playoffs, and then Matty Casey sat down, and we had, he sold me a dream, and I was like, I'm in, but I couldn't put them higher than 7. Like they were teetering on play-in for me, so I was close. But Portland did make the playoffs, and I had them second to last. There was a lot going on in terms of their transfers, right? Rodriguez was hurt. On top of that, right, they lost Evander and they replaced him with DaCosta, who I wasn't sure was going to be, uh, you know, the best of the best. You had the Santiago Moreno experience where he basically forced his way out and is no longer a part of the team. You were looking at Diego Chara running on 40. Okay, eventually a dude's got to stop, right? And then you've got a back line of that was relatively underwhelming last year in the Canadian trio, right? Kamal Miller, McGraw, and Crepeau, and even Pantemis, and a couple of those stepped up and overly impressed, I would say. But you had I think what it was is their midseason acquisitions did them really well, right? Christophe Velde did very good for them, um, kind of carrying that front four, and then you had players just step up in individual moments. But yeah, I think I just was not sold on the Phil Neville train, and I wasn't sold on the fact that they would survive without Evander, and they proved me wrong. So good on them.
I was off by 5 on Austin,
All right,
so
go for it.
maybe I'll give a quick one for Austin, I guess. But yeah, I think if you were just looking at the goal scoring record for Austin, I would have probably been pretty close. Because they could not score a goal to save their lives this year. Their defense was just significantly better than I thought it was going to be. And that's not to say it was immaculate or it was perfect, but they were more defensively sound than I thought they would be capable of. And to be honest, I had them up at 11 because I thought a lot of their guys would start to mesh together. Like they had big name players on their team, none of which seemed to really work out this season, but because they're all on the attacking side of things. But I think the defense was just stronger than I thought they would be. Again, it's another team that is just not terribly far off of 11th. I want to say they were like, actually, I'll check this out. There's no point in guessing. I have it up. They were 6 points off of 11th, so it was not like crazy far off, but they did better than I expected them to be. And I think a little bit of this was now that we've kind of been like talking through it and like looking through the standings,
Hmm.
outside of the top 5 in the West, the rest of the West felt pretty weak. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
I mean, we felt that going into it, right? And again, you weren't there really for the deep dives and stuff, but we always made the comment where every year we say the East is a bloodbath because you never know who's finishing top four. You've got 8 teams who can finish in the top four realistically, and you wouldn't be shocked by any of them. In the West, it was you've got 8 teams who are going to finish in the middle four, and there are going to be four good to average teams that could be, significant playoff teams that are probably going to miss on the last day, which is exactly what happened. But I agree with you. Really, and that's why making the predictions for the playoffs wasn't that difficult because there weren't a lot of 8, 7, 6 seeds that you're like, oh, this is going to be an upset, right? It was just kind of like, okay, you guys exist. However, in the East, it was like, it's kind of the same deal, but it was the second round where you're like, oh, this is going to be a tough one. So
Hmm.
I agree with you there.
Well,
My
I
next,
mean,
oh, go ahead.
sorry, last thing. Just look at Orlando finished on 53 points. If you took them, dropped them in the West, they're a sixth place team.
Uh,
Like that
let,
tells
let's
you
let's use the proper comparison. If you took the
what.
Red Bulls and dropped them in the West, they're playing in the playoffs right now. So let's get this right.
Just barely, just barely.
Yes, but barely enough. My next big one was Dallas, and I didn't love the Luciano Costa signing, and I also thought they didn't put enough around him. One, Tarmusa looked pretty good without him, and the fact that they got rid of him midway through the year and were able to build off of it and go on this run that was, I mean, a fantastic end of the season run for them, game changing, right? And quite frankly, if they don't get rid of Luciano Costa, I've got a correct prediction here. They're finishing 10, 11, 12. So I blame the front office for ruining my prediction here, and I will not be going any further.
Do you want
You
to?
got,
I feel like we have the next one we could probably do together.
would that be our friends in San Diego?
I think it would be.
I think we could. Yeah, why don't we talk about them a little bit? Because I've only got them and LA left to really apologize for. But San Diego, I'm actually not disappointed with this because I also, and we'll tie it into the bold predictions here in a little bit, but my bold prediction was that they were going to challenge for a top four spot in the West. So this was me saying, okay, they're going to challenge, but maybe not make it. But I do remember saying in the thing that I wouldn't be shocked if they have one or two players who step up and push them into the top four conversation. So um, I did this kind of as a safety net to try and not look crazy if they did in fact finish in 14th. But this doesn't, I'm not, I don't think I was terribly far off from putting them in the top four. Was I going to put them number one? Absolutely not. But that I wasn't terribly far off on this one.
For me, I really thought this defense was going to be a disaster this year. They felt thin. Even the starting defense did not feel strong, in my opinion, and they just blew my expectations out of the water. I mean, genuinely, I don't. look back on it and I'm like, oh my God, I should have seen this coming. Like, what was I thinking? I'm like genuinely, they just outplayed probably way more than most people would have expected. I mean, their backline consisted of Luca Bombino, an 18-year-old who I would have legit never expected to have the impact that he had this season. Their goalkeeper was CJ Dos Santos, who has played
Mhm.
180 minutes
Yeah.
in the league up to that point, and he had a fantastic year as well. And then just a bunch of, and then don't even get me started on Anders Dreyer. How would I have ever expected that? Obviously, he was a designated player for them, so there probably was like some expectation, but for him to pop off the way that he did, oh my God, I was never going to predict that. I mean, this whole team just clicked so well together and just outperformed way better than I expected them to, especially on the defensive side of things. I mean, I think I had some expectation that they were going to be decent in the attack. I really thought it was going to be because of Chucky Lozano, and don't get me wrong, he was solid, but didn't expect it to really come through Dryer as much as it did.
Yeah, I bought the Andres Dreyer heavy and hard. I mean, I when he came in, I was like, this is gonna be the guy. Did I expect him to be that good? No, but I definitely bought into the idea that he was going to be one of the better of the group. And yeah, yeah, but very fair, by the way, right? The idea of you look at that back line, like, yeah, they're gonna try the LA Galaxy their way through to wherever they want to go, and just doesn't look like something you can do as a first year team. Now, the way that they brought that back and turned that into a really respectable group was a credit to Mikey Varas, right? Getting buy-in from all the players and saying, we don't care if you've been here for, 2 days or 200 years, right? We're going to go out and do our style and play our game. And it is really, really impressive the way they came around. But once again, we've seen teams do this before where you get a really good first year, and then people are like, okay, no more of this nonsense. We're going to figure you out, and you bounce back. So it'll be interesting to see how they do next up. I've got one more to go. Our friends in the Galaxy. I thought Ricky Puig would come back some point during the year. I also thought that they would find a rhythm without him at some point, right? I remember being in the not so deep dive saying this is going to be a team that struggles at the start. Greg Van is going to figure out what's wrong, and Marco Royce or whoever is going to take over and be able to find the right answer. And just quite frankly, they couldn't, right? And their defensive liabilities that were covered up when Ricky Puig was taking 400 touches more than anybody else in the league were shown because they couldn't keep the ball. And, they were just leaking goals. I mean, Red Bull dropped 7 on them. That's crazy, right? Um, but my assumption for the Galaxy was they were only going to take however long it took. And what happened was they lost their two other designated players for a stretch in the beginning of the year. So they had to wait extra long to figure out how to get there. And by the end of the year, they started clicking a little bit. You saw them go on a decent run. They there was a long shot, but they still weren't mathematically eliminated because they kept picking up points and picking up wins. So, I think they're going to be more than fine next year. But this was me predicting that Ricky Puig was going to come back and be a little bit more present than he was.
Yeah, I also had the Galaxy pretty far off. I expected some slide off from them, especially because I feel like a lot of times in this league there's a little bit of championship hangover. And on top of that fact, there was all of like the different roster movements they had going on, using losing Joveljic definitely hurts, and there was like a lot of like media discussion about like unhappiness around having to make these changes because of certain roster restrictions. And
Mm-hmm.
I expected some slide from that, along with the fact that Ricky Puig was going to be out for a significant amount of time. I just didn't expect, like you had talked about, like Peck and Paintsill are going to pick up some injuries throughout the season, and for things to just fall off the wheel this much. I think if they had kept people relatively healthy throughout the year, you're not necessarily seeing them as like a top five team in the West, but I'd certainly think they would have been much more competitive for a play-in spot. And maybe that's a situation where you try to push Ricky Puig to come back and get him involved if you can. But I think just the way that they started off the season, and there was not a way for them to recover from that. And yeah, it made it way more of a slide off than I was originally anticipating for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the interesting part about these predictions is you never really know, right? Do we go to awards next?
I still have two more.
Oh
The West was
gosh,
not
you're
great for
that
me this year.
bad? You're
The West was
that
not great
bad?
for me this year.
You're that bad? That's crazy.
I had St. Louis finishing fourth. They finished 13th.
Oh, you know
I
what? I
was
also had St. Louis and I completely skipped them.
I was big on St. Louis coming into this year. I really thought they had the pieces together
You for sure
and
were.
had time to gel and get things together. And I was expecting them to just really be like an underdog in terms of having a super strong attack this year. Marcel Hartel, I had huge expectations for this year. Klaus was coming back this year. Cedric Torchart, I thought was going to have a huge role in this team as well. And it just did not click for them. They just could not get the attack going, especially early in the year. I remember there was like a point in time where we were so many games into the season and they had like I could count on one hand how many goals they had. Like, it was bad. And defense was like holding their own at the start. And, it was like, even at that point, I still had some optimism. It was like, all right, the attack's got it. They're going to figure it out. The defense is going to stay relatively solid. And then they'll be able to climb their way up the standings. And then it just never came together. They just couldn't get it going. The defense eventually ended up kind of falling off, and the attack still never really got to a level that they needed it to be at. And I still think there's a lot of talent in the team. I don't know like what direction they're going to take, if it's a blow it up kind of situation or if it's a, work with the pieces we have and try to fill in certain gaps. But oh man, I had high expectations for them, and it was a big swing and a miss on my end.
Yeah, and I was right there with you. This felt like a team that it didn't matter which coach they brought in. They were going to be more than fine. And Olaf Melberg just defied expectations and absolutely just ran this team into the ground. And it is kind of shocking, kind of disappointing, but the inability to, I guess, how do I phrase it? Inability to get the best out of these players and make them as bad as they were is criminal. A ridiculous level of ineptitude from Olaf Melberg not being able to get the most out of the group that was significantly more talented than you know I think anybody would have anticipated them to be. This was not a team that should have finished in 13th, or right, it was 13th they finished in. Yes, yeah. Not a team that should have finished there. Were they really a top four team in this Western Conference? Maybe, maybe not, but they were in a bottom three team, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, give me one
All
sec.
right. Oh yeah.
Oh, you have one more, right? Go ahead.
Yep. Here we go. All right. I have a lot to say on this one.
Oh gosh. Oh, that's right. Yeah, your friends in Houston. How could I forget? I need your explanation.
Yeah, so we're talking about the Dynamo. All right. And my logic coming into this season was the last 2 years, I have been counting out Houston and Benny Ball. I would consistently put them somewhere in the maybe 11 to 14 range in the Western Conference. And in back-to-back years, Benny slapped me across the face and said, "Stop doubting me." And so what did I do this year? I finally said, "All right, enough's enough, Benny. I'm gonna stop doubting you. You prove me wrong every season. This is gonna be the year where I'm gonna lock in. I'm gonna give you the respect you deserve, and I'm gonna put you in a top spot in the Western Conference." That was it. There was no other explanation for it. It wasn't like, oh, I like the way that the roster has been built. I think that there's like, they made the right moves to fill certain holes that they had in their team. I just strictly went based off the fact that in back-to-back seasons, I kept doubting him and I kept being wildly off. And then what does Benny Ball do to repay my faith in him? He goes and lays a stinker for Houston this year. And they finished 12th in the one year that I decided to back them. So Houston is not an enemy of the pod, but they are my enemy. And they are now my op. And I will never give Houston the credit they deserve again. I'm sorry, Houston fans. This is nothing against the Houston fans, but I've had enough with trying to predict Houston correctly, and I will just put them in last place every year until I'm correct.
I love it. Connor has found his op. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, let's move forward to the awards predictions then, because these were also very not good. So,
I'm quite happy with mine, if I'm being honest.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be that happy. You only got one right, and so did I.
Well, let's talk about it.
All right. Let's start with the easy one. The one that we both got right. The one that hurt to predict, but it was one that you just couldn't turn down. Lionel Messi, MVP. I,
Had to
I'm
bank on
s-
one right prediction.
I'm so upset because Andres Dreyer put in genuinely a historic performance. I mean, just if you like for a newcomer, first of all, dropping 44 goal contributions in his first season for an expansion team is unbelievable. If you told me that was going to happen, I like I said, I bought into his stock. I didn't think it'd be that good. And he came in and was just like, ha 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 ha, watch me. And then Lionel Messi, wait a second, hold on. You're not that good, buddy. And then he dropped like 50 whatever goal contributions. It's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It's so stupid. Yeah, and then the Golden Boot was also Messi for his, nonsense year that makes zero sense. I think you made me buy in on St. Louis here with your thoughts. I had Cedric Toy Shirt from St. Louis winning the Golden Boot. And that's probably where the podcast curse, built off of. I had him in fourth, had their guy winning the Golden Boot, which means naturally 13th.
Yeah. I was also incorrect on the Golden Boot, but mine was more reasonable. My pick was for Petar Musa, who finished with 18 goals and was joint fifth. So
Yeah,
that is
that was a
not
good
a
one.
bad prediction by any means.
I'm still waiting for justice for Casper Shabilko, but that's just me.
Where even is Casper Shivogo?
He's in like I think he's out in Lugano or something in Switzerland. He went out there with as a part of the like Chicago Fire, program or whatever, and now he's gone. Golden Glove, another one. I think we both picked Hugo Lloris, and something that we did not see coming was Takaoka and the back line of Vancouver being as elite as they were. 13 clean sheets.
Yeah, Lloris was not far off though. He was only
Right.
two away, so we were
Yeah.
close on that
Again,
one too.
yeah, not a terrible one there. Remains goalkeeper of the year. Dane St. Clair wins it. Our boy Dwayne. And I picked Romain Celentano because I had FC Cincinnati in fifth, and I always felt like the goalkeeper of the year doesn't necessarily belong to the best ever team, and it came from the guy who finished fourth in the West. So, I don't think it's a terrible shout for Celentano. I don't think he was in the final, the running, though, was he?
He was not. I have it up
No.
somewhere. The finalists were Dane, Takioka, and Matt Freese.
Yeah, which again, I don't think it's crazy far off, and you had Lloris because he was Golden Glove, and obviously you're trying to put one together, but yeah, didn't quite come off, but. Defensive player of the year, again, we both picked Jackson Reagan, thinking Seattle was going to be a first place team in the West and he was going to leave them there. Instead, it came from the second place team in the West and, Tristan Blackman and a team that, again, something none of us saw coming and definitely we're not going to predict.
That's crazy. Could you imagine, can you imagine a couple of years ago when we were talking about Tristan Blackman on LAFC and being like, yeah, this is a future MLS Defender of the Year right here?
Yeah.
Because
And,
he was a bit of a mess on LAFC.
well, yeah, remember, we kind of memed him a little bit when he was on LAFC
Yeah,
too.
that's what
Yeah,
I mean. Like we were kind of shows us. I mean, we were kind of dogging on him when he was at LAFC, and now he's a Defender of the Year. That would be like the way we talk about Wyatt Armsberg. It'd be like if he won Defensive Player of the Year next year. Obviously, he's retired, so he can't do
yeah.
that. But it'd be
He's
like
defense
imagine he won it next year.
in our hearts, in our hearts. It was the blonde hair. Tristan Blackman went blonde, just like Comac Varsity, and instantly turns into an elite player. It's in the hair. Newcomer of the year, Andres Dreyer. Not a bad shout for. I don't think I had a bad shout. I think Wilfred Zaha. I had him leading this Charlotte team to elite levels. Also, didn't think Patrick Agyemang was gonna fall out, but or move on, I should say. But I had Zaha. You had Emmanuel Latte Lot. There's your Atlanta pick for the awards.
Yeah, that one did not age too well. I mean, it made sense with the way I was predicting the standings. I really thought he was going to have a big impact on the team, but there's no way I was going to guess Dryer. So
No,
was
no,
definitely getting that one wrong.
And like I said, I bought his stock. I thought he was going to be very, very good. Did I think he was going to be newcomer of the year good? No. No. And again, I was all in on Charlotte being like the best team in the league. I thought I had Charlotte in the Supporter Shield. And they had a really good run where they were the best defensive team in the league, but Zaha decided he'd rather yell at referees and walk around the field, pissing and moaning all day instead of actually playing, and that didn't really help him in the newcomer of the year fight. We both had Dean Smith from Charlotte as our coach of the year. Again, we were kind of bought in on Charlotte. Instead, it went to Bradley Carnell, who took a Philly team that was dreadful last year and turned them into Supporter Shield champions. Not a shock that it went to him. Dean Smith, Dean Smith, and this might be hot. Dean Smith might be getting towards Gary Smith level where he is running out of what he can do with the Charlotte team. And I'm gonna give him time with a fully healthy Pep BL with trying to figure out how to play without Patrick Agyemang and see if he can get Will Zaha involved and whatever else comes in over the offseason. But I'm getting very close to thinking that Dean Smith has gotten the most out of Charlotte and they're not going to be true contenders with him at the helm because I don't think his tactics or his personnel switching is quite enough to get them over that hump.
I'm still not. I think the jury's still out on that one. I mean he improved them by 8 points this year, so I think there's progress to be made. I really just feel like the top three in the East were just incredibly strong this year, and Charlotte had a slow start, but I feel like I think the potential's still there, I will probably run it back and have the exact same thing happen to me next year, but I will happily do it again.
Oh man, well, we'll talk about bold predictions, but maybe that gets into a bold prediction there. Who knows? Referee of the year goes to Drew Fisher. That's a cop-out pick from MLS. Obviously, the answer was Philip Dujic, and they didn't want me to win. They knew what was coming if I had won, and they were like, nope, can't have it. So Drew Fisher cop out because they knew exactly what he would give them. He'd give them clicks and he'd give them ratings. And I know how I'm formulating my referee of the year pick next year. Who gives the most cards? Who gives the most reds? And who gives the most penalties? That's the guy who's going to get it.
I actually don't have written down who mine was, so I don't
Yours
remember.
was Lucas Spala.
Okay.
You don't even know
Safe
who that is. So
safe to say I did not get that one correct.
you don't even know who that is. You closed your eyes, put all the names on a dartboard, and threw. And you're like that one.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Comeback player of the year was Nick Hagelin for FC Cincinnati. You picked João Klaus. I picked Pablo Ruiz out of RSL. This was very, very strictly Matty Casey influenced. I will tell you right now that was 100% him being like Ruiz because I forgot Ruiz was even on the team. We were talking about it. I remember in the not so deep dives we were talking about it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, and Pablo Ruiz is coming back. It's gonna make it a different team." I'm like, "Oh my God, I forgot he existed." And then they finished ninth. So not, and I don't think he played that much either. I'll have to double check that, but
You
Emeka
gotta.
Nilman.
I know you talked about getting Maddie on again for the not so deep dive next year, but I think you have to change it up. Otherwise, you're literally just gonna be fully bought it. Like you're gonna have RSL at the top of the table, like every single year. Every year that Maddie's on, you're gonna have RSL top of the table. Somebody's gonna be in an award competition. Like I get it. Like I think Maddie's great to have on the show, but I think you're getting too influenced. I
Here's the
think
problem. You haven't
Maddie,
you
if you're
haven't had a
listening, you gotta convince him down other roads.
you have to sit down on a chat with him. That's a problem. You've not yet met or spoken to him. So you're gonna have to
I'm not saying I wouldn't be convinced either, but
yeah.
I'm just saying like you seem I think he could like if you were an Eskimo, he could sell ice to you.
Yeah, I'm an Eskimo. I need ice. Duh. How am I gonna build my igloo?
You have all the ice.
No, I don't have all of the ice. The guy who owns the ice has it, and I have to buy it from him. Do you not understand how basic economics works? Gosh.
We are not going down an economics route right now.
This is the guy who's controlling your accounts. I don't know what you do. You play with numbers. Talk to me about João Klaus.
It just went in line with me being high on St. Louis's attack this year. I thought Hartel was going to be their engine of the attack, and then Klaus was just going to benefit secondarily off of that. And so I thought he was going to reap the benefits of an explosive St. Louis attack. engineered by Marcel Hartel, which will go into one of my bold predictions later that did not age well.
No, no. Yeah, so then comeback player, not comeback, young player of the year. Alex Freeman wins for Orlando after breaking out in his first year and also making it into the men's national team. Probably going to the World Cup if you ask me, but that'll be for down the line. I had Jack McGlynn. You had Quinn Sullivan, and quite frankly, I think Quinn Sullivan was a great shout until he got hurt. I think he probably would have been in the conversation for it. Jack McGlynn, I think I made that pick before he moved to Houston, and I probably would have changed it had it not been for Houston. But and again, that might be wrong. People might be like, "No, he was on Houston. You said he was going to bring Houston to the top." I had Houston at 12. So if I picked him as young player of the year and Houston finished 12th, poor on me. Then again, I did pick him as when he was a part of Philly, who I also had in 12th. So what do I know?
I don't think McGlynn was a bad shout. I really do
I don't
feel
think
like
so
he had
either.
his best
And
year this year.
you know what it might have been is it might have been one of those like Houston's going to be really bad or Philly's going to be really bad, but Jack McGlynn's going to ball out and national team looks and be in the top goal contributions and whatever, but they're just not going to be enough to get across the line or whatever. But or maybe I just picked the guy who I thought had the best chance. I don't know. Not everything needs to tie together, people. Leave me alone. And then we have one that's up for debate because this isn't an actual award. This is a designated players award, and it is the David Goss Theorem Player of the Year. Um, Connor, I'm going to tell you, I don't think you understood this one. I think you might have missed the. I think you might have missed the boat on how this worked.
No, I know I did because I remember listening to you do the predictions episode and you were like, "Well, I don't think he understood what this one was."
Oh man, yeah, I don't know if we could classify as Marcel Hartel as a David Goss Theorem Player of the Year, considering how good he was in
Well,
2024.
let's be honest. He probably wasn't going to win that award regardless of how he performed last year. I think he would lose this award regardless.
I picked Joaquin Pereira from Minnesota, who was pretty good. He had 6 goals, 9 assists in 33 appearances out of 34 games. He also had 3 assists in the Leagues Cup, a goal and 2 assists in the Open Cup, and a goal and an assist in the playoffs. So, considering that your pick really didn't count, I'm going to take a win on that because I also am not going to go and look up every player who was signed midway through the year last year and was average to break out this year. So, that's a win for me. Go me.
I mean, I mean, you definitely one of the two of us, but I think the correct answer is probably Pep Biel.
Happy was hurt towards the end of the year. I don't know if that's and
I think he still got it. He
uh,
played 2,000 minutes this year.
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
What did he do outside of that? Did he have I mean, yeah,
He had
fine. Yeah,
20
he was
goal contributions in
fine.
2,000
Okay, he
minutes.
was whatever. But how many did he have before that? When he was probably in the MVP conversation in 24. Let's be real. Don't fact
He
check.
had
Don't
5 goal
fact.
contributions in
Don't
600 minutes played.
don't fact check it. That's all I'm saying. 5 goal
I have
contribution in
it up.
600 minutes.
It's right in front of me.
5 goal. That's a goal contribution a game.
It is that is not true.
Yeah, it is.
I know math is a hard subject,
It
but
is.
that's not a
Listen,
goal.
listen. Stop with your gaslighting of numbers and all this nonsense. I don't need to hear it because this bubble right here, this is my bubble. And what happens
Uh-huh.
in my bubble is the truth. So I don't need to
Okay.
hear your nonsense popping my bubble.
Okay. Okay.
Good.
Fine.
Good.
You live in your SpongeBob paint bubble over there.
That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. Surrounded by my scarves and with my puppy. Okay. Let's finish this up with bold predictions. This has been a long episode. My bold predictions were close. I think all three of them for me were pretty close. Yours,
Yeah, well, because yours were probably not actually bold.
oh my God. You do this every year. Like, they're not bold enough. Like, sorry, I didn't predict Wyatt Holmesburg to lead the league in goal contributions. Damn. Like, sorry. I'm not that crazy. Damn.
Well, let's see what they are, and then I will rejudge it.
All right. So I said that there would be 3 new teams in the top 4 of the East uh, this year. So I said that of the top 4, 3 of them would be brand new, completely flipped. And I got 2 of them. Philly and Charlotte made the top 4. FCC and Miami were the remaining. So I was relatively close there, um, which was pretty good.
Yeah, a Super Bowl prediction as the fifth place team moved to fourth place, and he gets credit for it now. Wow, you really blew that one up.
Yeah, okay, sure. So
Crazy.
the fact that we always have the same handful of teams in there every year is enough to sit there and say, okay, well, you knew Miami was going to be up there. Was FCC going to fall out? I don't know, right? Was Atlanta going to climb back in there? That was our guess. So I had a guess, and it was very close, and I'm going to take that point for me. How'd your point? How'd your Oh, wow. How'd your first one go? I got it written right here. Please read it to me in its entirety.
Yeah, you know what? My bold predictions didn't go so well because mine are actually bold, and there's a small chance that they'll pan out.
To
My
to
first one,
Sorry, hold on. Just to repeat what a wise man once told me. I'd rather be right than crazy.
not on bold predictions. That's not how a bold prediction works. On
Yeah,
an awards prediction, yeah, I'd
it's
rather
fun.
be right.
It's funny how the story changes depending on who's in focus here.
My first
Anyways,
bold prediction was that Patrick Agyemang was going to be top five in the Golden Boot. Clearly, that didn't pan out because he was gone halfway through the year.
where was he when he got sold? Do you know?
He was definitely not top five.
Yeah, I couldn't remember where exactly he was because I would have given this to you had he been there when he got sold and been like, oh yeah, had he stuck it out and pace continued, he would have been better. But I don't think he was. I don't think he was close.
No, I think he had 7 goals when he left, and that was definitely not top five.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
just kidding. He had 6.
yeah, and I do think that he was closer than farther, right? Like it wasn't like he had won, but he wasn't double digits by halfway.
Yeah, he was not having a great year in the league.
No, no. My number two was pretty good, and we kind of explained this in the standings. I said that San Diego was going to challenge for a top four spot in the West.
In the
We've been
West.
going for too long. The West. San Diego's going to challenge for a top four spot in the West this year, and again, coming in, that was kind of bold because one, they were an expansion team. Two, you mentioned the defense being thin and things like that. But and as I mentioned in the predictions that I said, I had them in six, but one or two good performances from new players puts them up to the top four. So I was very happy with that bold prediction, and I think if you don't think that's bold enough, then I'm kicking you off of the show because
No, that one I'll give you. That was a bold prediction, and you got that one correct. There's no agenda I can create to make to not give you credit for that one. But
not in the amount of time that I've given you. You definitely could create one, but not in this short amount of time.
yeah, I'll say that. But yes, that was a good bold prediction and one that you definitely got correct. So that one I will concede that is a point to you. My next one is certainly not getting any points.
Yeah.
Um, my guess, and this was going along the lines of the Galaxy having a more competitive year than they actually had, was that Gabriel Peck was going to break the MLS transfer record in the summer transfer window. I figured he came off an explosive year before. I figured he had a lot of eyes on him. And the summer transfer window is where people were going to spend money outside of Major League Soccer. And so I was guessing, with Ricky Puig being hurt for most of the year, that the Galaxy were going to be in a position where, they're not top of the West challenging for Supporter Shield. And they'd be in a chance where it's like, all right, this money is too good to pass up on. We have to take it. And I thought someone was going to come in for Peck, and that did not happen. He had a bit of a down year. I know he had some injuries, but he still played about 2,500 minutes and had less than 10 goal contributions. So, safe to say that's definitely not even happening next summer transfer window.
It's absolutely crazy the impact that Ricky Puig had because you took a guy and again Peck had a down year for sure, but I think it was because all the eyes were not on him or were all the eyes were turned on him, right? When you knew that the only thing they were going to do, there was nobody in the middle to create and do something crazy, so all you had to do was worry about the guy out wide. They shut him down and absolutely insane in that sense. But um, my third one again, close, but not close enough. I had Caleb Porter being the first coach to get the sack this year. He was not. It was Olaf Melberto. No, it wasn't. It was Laurent Courtois. It went Courtois, Melberto, and then it was Porter. So yeah, it was close, but I didn't expect Montreal the last six games, none of which were at home, to go and fire their coach. But Montreal does what Montreal wants anyway.
Montreal gonna Montreal.
Hell yeah, they are. Hell yeah, they are.
Someone should make that a t-shirt. Um, my last bold prediction, I
Are you,
hinted
well,
at
hold on, sorry, are you saying we should start a merch store? Because we could do it.
we'd probably get in a legal trouble if we use Montreal, but we can try.
Yeah,
Hope you
listen,
know a
what are they
good
gonna do?
lawyer.
What are they gonna do? Cease and desist? Okay, I'll stop making them.
Yeah, well, maybe. My last one, I hinted at it already. My last bold prediction, in line with the explosive St. Louis attack, was that Marcel Hartel was going to be an MVP finalist, one of the five finalists that they name at the end of the season. Safe to say he was not even close. 13 goal contributions is not getting you in the MVP finalist race. But you know what? There's always time to run it back next year. All right, when you pick Casper Shabilko for your third straight year of winning the Golden Boot, I will match you right there with Marcel Hartel as your MVP finalist.
All I'm saying is Red Bull need another quick winger, so call him up.
Yeah,
Let him do his thing.
make it
Uh,
happen.
Gosh, this was fun. I love looking back at the end of the year doing this sort of stuff. So we hope everybody else enjoyed it. That was really fun. Let us know what the craziest thing that you thought that we predicted was going to happen this year was. That's English, maybe. I don't know. I'm so tired. Um, we hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you're following us wherever you get your podcast and on social media, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok, so that we can interact with you and you can answer questions of the week and stuff. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on the next episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. See ya.